So hello everybody, it is me, Demetra K, and I'm sitting here with the recovering Democrat, Donovan Sadiq, and it is the Demetra K Show. It is the podcast and the YouTube show where we promote Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people, because we are great people, but there's also, I should say, room for improvement. And so before we get started, we're actually going to be talking about what we can do to improve things in our community. And specifically, we're going to tie this to a video of a woman in Southwest Houston that was robbed as she was going into her home. She had just the day before cashed her income tax check, and, she was robbed. And we're going to show the video. But Donovan, what say you before we get started?
Hey, you guys, welcome to the show, the podcast. Like I said, a lot of stuff has been going on. A lot of stuff is continuing to go on. And we thank you for helping and supporting the New Black Media. This is what we do, getting the word out. People are waking up, Demetra. They are waking up slowly but surely. But again, if you guys are listening to this podcast and you're sitting in traffic, you can catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Speaker, all kinds of platforms that has a pod, so you can hear us. So just share it, like it, and we'll get back to you.
Yes, indeed. So as I said, this incident actually happened on the 26th of March, early in the morning as she was returning home. Now, the day before she had cashed her income tax. As you guys know, it's income tax season where people are getting a lot of money back from the government or whatever. So she had cashed her check. It was almost $4,000 to the tune of $3,900. And this happened. So check it out.
You say you got the money. Oh, sure. It's in there. What are you doing? Handle it.
That's a damn
right. So as y'all saw there, the lady who is, obviously trying to disguise her identity because they know where she lives, right? Whoever it is. Now, the couple things that struck me as, odd or whatever with this video is that the guy said, it sounds like he said Tanisha or somebody like that, says, you have the money. So that would lead me to think, that it was an inside job somehow. Maybe, I don't know if Tanisha knows her, or maybe somebody who knew she cashed that check. I don't know. Something else is going on there. I'm just going to put it out there. Something going on there. I'm not saying that the lady, she's 53 years old, by the way. I'm not saying she's complicit in what happened to her. But somebody knows something other than it being random, right? Because it happened at like 7:30 or so in the morning on the 26th. And so I don't know where she was coming from, but she also has a son that is a paraplegic that she takes care of, and she was going to use the money to help care for him. And she says her son, was inside the house and he could hear what happened, but he couldn't do anything because he's a paraplegic. And so he was very distraught that his mom was put in that situation. There was nothing that he could do. But the rapper Trey the Truth, who is, from Houston and all that, he did find her and made it up to her, and also let her know that you're not alone. We're not going to, sit back and let this happen to you and let you, suffer in silence. And so it sounds like he took care of her financially and, all that kind of stuff. But Donovan, what say you when you see that?
Okay, well, first of all, what a damn shame. What a damn shame. It's a term that I use on my show here on the West Coast. I call it roaching. And what roaches do is when there's no food or crumbs for them to eat, they eat off each other. And what you just saw in that video was an example of people roaching on each other. So let me say this. I saw a young man, pants sagging off his ass. I don't even know how he was running up to her without falling down on his ass. I have a lot of questions. Like I said, I'm not trying to berate the victim of this or anything, but with everything being digital, why would you run around with that kind of money in your on your person? Maybe she had to do something with cash. I don't know. But again, this is a good example of why you should have a bank account or some kind of digital account where you don't have to carry these large sums of money. But that's after the fact. But it's just so sad that we are preying on people within our community. And like you said, at that early in the morning, there's only a few people that would know mama or grandma or somebody would be coming home at a certain time and would have that kind of money because using that logic, then you should be able to rob anybody because you're going to assume everybody has money in their purse, right? Using logic, if you didn't know, somebody knew something to where this woman was targeted.
Yeah, like why not catch her outside of the check cashing or wherever she was cashing the check or anywhere else, but you roll up to her house and she said, as she was going into the house, she heard this, so she was like, what the heck is going on? Somebody tripping or whatever. And she said she never even imagined that they were coming to, rob her. And as you can also see, she threw everything she had at him, like, here, you ain't got to try to touch me. You ain't got to try to rough me up. And, she said he also said to her, I'll blow your, mother effing head off. And he did have a gun and all of that. And so I, think her throwing her stuff was just a way of saying, listen, I ain't, you ain't got to try to do nothing to me.
Right,
Here's everything you need.
You got it. Mm-hmm. So which is the proper response that you should do, especially if you're an elderly person or a single woman and stuff. Even if you're a single guy, let the police handle it because at that point, it ain't worth it. That money ain't worth whatever's in your purse, whatever's in your wallet. It could be replaced. It's just not worth it.
And that's what she said. She was like, I lost the money, but I still have my life because we know, especially, just in general, right? When a lot of people are robbed, they don't get to walk away with their life. And we hear stories of people who lose their life over $5, or next to nothing. I know out here, there's this big thing going on with people stealing Cadillac converters. And from what I understand, there was a police officer not too long ago. I think they had his funeral yesterday. That was killed. I guess, I don't know if he was undercover. I don't know the details of it. And somebody was just telling me about it. Well, they, being the criminals, were in the process of stealing a Cadillac converter. He came out and caught them, and they killed him. And I think that, it was worth about $500 or whatever it is. But they were caught, and I think it was a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and a 19-year-old who did that.
Just throw their lives away. Just walk into prison. We keep talking about the white man, but yes, the white man is an issue and the white police is an issue. But how do you explain what we just saw? How do you explain that?
Well, so that's what we're going to try to do, for these next 50 minutes or so, is try to explain what we saw and how we can stop seeing that even more. And so I came up with something, and I want to touch upon it, the people, politicians, and the parents, because everybody, the people, politicians, and parents are all to blame. Now, I don't know how old the guy was who did it, but it seems like he was fairly young. Doesn't seem like he was an older man, maybe young 20s, maybe, late teens or what, I don't know, but he didn't seem like he was an older guy. And so when you see something like that, you got to draw the parents into it. You got to draw the politicians into it, and you got to draw the people. Now I want to explain this, and let's start with the people, Donovan. So, actually, let's start with the parents, because I think that's where it starts. Okay, so you talk about the parents. And I know sometimes when you say, it's the parents at fault, right? I don't know that to be the case in the situation, but to say in general, a lot of times you have people say, well, you could be the best parent and still raise the worst kids. Yeah, that's true. You can, be the best parent in some way, somehow you raise the bad seed, right? Maybe it's genetically,
Right. No, I believe it is genetics. So sometimes it is genetics.
Yeah, maybe you do have a Damien or something like that, from the omen. But in a lot of cases, you know who you're raising, right? In a lot of cases, when you have people who do things like that, maybe they're not being taught right from wrong. Maybe, as I've heard you use this analogy before, your son and brought a bike home that he didn't pay for, you didn't pay for, but you never checked him and said, where'd you get this bike from? Did you steal it? We taking it back? So somewhere you got to bring the parents into that. And is it an upbringing thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of it is because who is the first teacher? Your parents, most specifically your mother, but your parents in general. Now, the excuse of, the father isn't there. Yes, the father should be there. Parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, whatever. Everybody's in the same boat and has a responsibility to show the younger people the right way to go about things. Okay. I don't know what parallel world all you listeners out there are living on in Marvel Universe. Okay. Right now you're in this parallel world. So we got rules and regulations. And it's amazing to me, like you said, that young man was about 20 something years old. He looked about, young 20, maybe, whatever. So at this point, it's beyond his parents. He's responsible for what he's doing. So yeah, I just hear a lot of young people, especially when they get in trouble. Oh, I had such a bad upbringing into my parents. You're 34 years old. What does your parents have to do with you from the time you hit 18 up until now? You could make your own decisions from the time you were 18 for the rest of your life. What does your parents have to do with it?
Right. And yeah, you make a good point. I mean, at some point in time, you got to take responsibility for your actions, right? So like you said, especially if you are grown, at some point in time, it's wrong to run up on a woman in her yard and, rob her of her belongings and, and scare the crap out of her. I mean, what if she would have had a heart attack or something? I know I would have. If I would have, been coming home and I turned around and saw somebody running at me with a gun, I probably would have died right there on the spot, just to keep it real with you, right? But so, yeah, like you said, I mean, at some point in time, you got to take responsibility of yourself. But I want to break down the parental components, being the mom and the dad. But go ahead, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say this too. Seeing something like this, my question is, where are the people in the neighborhood, the gang members and the people that claim their territory? Gangsters used to have a code. There were certain things you didn't do. You know what I mean? Somebody needs to go pay those young people a visit and say, you're going to return this money. You're going to go apologize after you get this ass whipping so that we understand that when you come into this neighborhood, this is what's happening. In our dad's generations and our parents' generations, that used to happen all the time. You couldn't just walk into somebody's neighborhood and just, do what you wanted to do. You were going to get vetted. People are going to check you out. Who's that? What's going on? So, they're in Houston. For the men in the community, and I'm going to say this, they know who did that crime. They know. Ain't nothing going on in the damn hood, and people don't know who, how, and where. They know. Somebody needs to turn that old boy into the chief gangster or whatever in the area and say, hey, this wasn't right. Just like in the movie The Godfather. Remember in the beginning? I didn't want to come to you because I didn't want to get into trouble. God was like, I understand. And I understand. You know what I mean? That's what should happen with some of these people. I mean, we need to go back and say, hey, look, we know you're the local blood or Crip gang lord or whatever the deal is. Hey, this ain't right. And then have them handle that.
But like you said, though, I mean, there used to be a code. And I don't know, I'm not a gang member, never have been. But I would still think that there is some, it's going to sound weird, honor within gangs. Like, I know that when people do drive-bys and they kill kids and innocent people, all that kind of stuff, yeah, when they go in there, at least it was back in the day, it was like, yeah, well, you're going to have to answer for that. Because while we do nefarious things as gangs, we don't do that kind of stuff, right? And so the other thing, as far as the parents are concerned, is that you do have, in a lot of cases, especially in the neighborhoods, there is a lot of single mom situations going on. I'm not trying to blame mom, okay? But I'm saying It is a known fact that there are a lot of single moms that are raising the children oftentimes by herself. And so while we keep saying, well, we can't blame the mom, and Dr. Ava Muhammad said that. She made a very good point. She says, no, it's not all the mom's fault, but moms, you have to take some responsibility for if you are the only parent in that child's life and the child is wayward and not acting right, then you have to take responsibility for that because you are the child's main circle of influence. And so while the daddy should be there, he is not. But that doesn't absolve you as the mom of making sure you're pouring some good things into that child and disciplining him and all that. So that way, when they go out into the world, they're not doing things that are harmful to other people. You can't lean on, well, I'm a single mama, I didn't have no help. Well, it's like, okay, that's true for a lot of people, but that don't mean you raise demons and release them on everybody.
Right. And sometimes as a mother, one of the greatest things that you can do is relinquish your child to the father or to a better situation to give them a better opportunity. Because if they stay there, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? But they don't see that because, and I'm not trying to, we're not on that issue. But a lot of women keep the kids because of a financial gain that they have for it, regardless of how the kid's going to turn out.
Yeah, and sometimes that's true, but I think a lot of things that is not talked about is a lot of those mothers don't really get child support like that. Mm-hmm. But the other portion of the parental, complex, if you will, is the dad. Yeah. So let's say in these same situations where the father may not be there, he needs to be there. You can. Because there's no law that's going to, the judge and the law can make a father pay, put a judgment on him that he pays child support, but he can't or she can't make the father stick around, right? Mm-hmm. So the other thing is, fathers, stop leaving your children. Stay as much as you can. And we talk about this all the time. Don't talk about, oh, she's hard to deal with. She ran me away from my child. No. Put the white man on like she put the white man on you. But most importantly, you got to realize when you walk away, what are you walking away from? You're walking away from your responsibilities of raising your child and making sure that you're doing your part to put a good person into the world, because while the mama is there by herself and she's not doing a good job parenting, that's still kind of on you too, because you should be there to at least do your part.
Right. And if you're going to walk away, make sure that financial check is there every month for you to walk away and just be done with it. You know what I mean? That's what you're going to do. A good example, like Black China. Did you hear how she put out that I'm a single mom thing? Come to find out, she ain't even with her kids. She ain't even raising her damn kids. It's the fathers that are doing it.
That was an epic fail on her behalf.
And she had to give up 3 of her luxury cars. It ain't like she gave up a Honda and a Supra. No, she gave up these luxury cars. So wait a minute, where's the money going? But that's another story.
I think it ties in because on that behalf, and I thought it was so funny, because she thought she was, I don't know what she thought she was doing.
She wanted to get sympathy from you women.
Or just maybe say, this is why I don't have all these rides anymore. Just admit that you broke, right? And that you made financially irresponsible decisions with your money. I mean, like you said, it wasn't a Honda. It was like Lamborghinis and old Roaches.
A Spider Ferrari and stuff. And here's the funny thing. It's rumored when she got on OnlyFans last year, she made like $16 million, something like that, $16 to $20 million, rumored.
And now you're broke. Her and her baby daddy, Tyga, were amongst the highest paid OnlyFans, stars or whatever there was. So, I mean, to your point, where is this money? But the epic backfire was that she posted it somewhere, I think on the Shade Room or somewhere. And the Shade Room got a hold of it, one of those rags, tabloids. And Tyga, which is her son King's father, got on there, and Rob Kardashian got on there first. It was like, wait a minute, you lying? Because first of all, I have her through like Tuesday through Saturday or something like that, or Sunday.
You watch your kids 2 days a week.
2 days a week, and I pay
all the expenses,
$37,000 in child or schooling a month or something like that. Yeah. I don't know what it was, and then
a year. It's like 37. He pays all the expenses, all extracurricular activities, all the expenses basically.
And then Tyga gets on there and says, "Wow, well, tell me what you're doing so I can pay, less than you."
$3,000 less. $3,000 less.
Like, but I have our son this amount of time. And so, to your point, when people did the math, it was like you only have her, the kids, like 2 days a week. So what are you trying to blame us? Talking about I don't have any help. And they was like, nah, you lying. So that was an epic fail. But anyway, back to what we were saying. I mean, I think to sum the parent part up, it takes two parents to make the child, and it takes two parents to raise the child. So, moms.
Point of order.
Huh?
Point of order. I got a point of order.
Sure.
I don't understand this, okay? Let's say the father doesn't want to be there. The father usually has a mother and cousins and all kinds of other people on the other side of family that that love the family, whatever those. And you got the extended family members. Why is it that you run into a lot of these women that alienate the child from their other side of the family? Because I would be down. Okay, now my situation with my nieces. I didn't necessarily get along with their mother, but for the sake of kids, I did. And we had a great relationship because that was me and the mom. I don't have to like the mom. I just have to deal with her, in the aspect that she is the mother and respect her in that aspect. But the one thing I can say about my niece's mother was she never interfered with my relationship with my nieces. She let me have access to my nieces so that I could be there to do what it is my brother may not be there to do, or just to make sure the kids are being raised the way that my brother would want. My question is, I don't care how many baby daddies you got or whatever. My question is, you mean to tell me all of these women out here don't have a relationship with that man's family?
Well, I mean, and the short answer might be no, she doesn't, right? Because let's just be honest. Unfortunately, a lot of people out there just having sex, creating kids, and don't get to know the other side of the family, or they don't get to know each other's family. And so by the time, it happens so fast sometimes where children are made, and of course, a lot of times moms, especially if you have sons, it's like, well, I know that's my son's child and all that, and then you might rub the baby mama the wrong way, and she might be like, well, since y'all didn't believe it was his, then why should I bring her? All that other nonsense. And so the thing to not get in that situation is get to know each other, right? Go, as they say, the courting process. Go meet the other sides of the family and see who they are and how they are, and see if y'all can get along before you even lay down and produce a child.
Right, because my thing is this: if my sister-in-law came to me, and my sister-in-law is in the Air Force, and we know as military people they have to go places, right? And this is before she married her current husband. She would say, "Hey Don, I need you to watch your nephew at this time." I mean, it ain't like I'm going to say no. I have no choice. I got to support her and what she's doing, but at the same time, I look at these moms and I'm like, you guys are, it's like you're denying the child access to relatives that might be able to help and get you out of that situation, or at least get the child out of that situation. So it's so sad.
Yeah, it's sad. It's avoidable, but there's so many reasons as to why that happens. Yeah, you have some moms are just salty. It's like, I'm not going to share my child with anybody. And then some moms will say, well, I have my reasons. I mean, they stepped to me sideways when I was pregnant. And, so there's a lot of reasons why that might be the case. But at the end of the day, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child, right? The village is supposed to pour into the child so that the child is a better person, right? Becomes a good human. So the other part of that is, let's talk about the politicians, right? So in a lot of these areas, and I'm not really quite sure what the situation is in Southwest Houston. I think it was 3rd Ward, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 3rd Ward, so give or take, I don't know. So you have these politicians who may or may not be good for the community. Now, when I say we need to throw the politicians in here, it's because a lot of times when we hear about the hood or our communities or whatever, we hear about, we need to, put more money into crime stopping, beef up security and the police and stuff like that. It's like, well, have y'all thought about putting more money into resources? Because we know a lot of our communities are crime ridden because it just lacks resources to proper jobs.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying it's a good excuse. I'm just, throwing some facts in there. So when you deplete an area of the resource that needs to just take care of itself, even on the minimum basis, you're going to have people rolling around because we know crime is about proximity. No matter what they say, oh, black on black crime, well, it's the same thing in white communities. You do stuff to people you're closest to. And so you have these politicians say, well, we're going to beef on security. We're going to put more money into the police department. It's like, well, have you thought about creating jobs? I ain't talking about bringing in Popeyes, Jack in the Box, and all those other things. We're talking about some real sustainable jobs like they had back in the day where it was like a Ford motor plant or something, and people could, the man back then could go there, work, and come home and bring the check and take care of his family, in some cases send the kids to school. What about bringing resources, real solutions, instead of, well, we're going to let you get hit over the head, and then when you get hit over the head, we're going to send the police in there.
Right, reactionary.
Exactly. Why not be proactive in putting in resources and things that help the community sustain itself, opposed to being reactive and bringing in the police to try to crime solve, right? Because nobody wants their mama robbed.
Or how about this? Remember when we were coming up, you had the 4-H club, you had the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you had all these organizations, especially which really helped my mom out when as a widower and having to work. And, there was no daycare when we were coming up. Demetria, you remember that. There was no such thing as daycare. You had the Boys and Girls Club. If it wasn't for that, look at these kids rolling around with nothing to do. Nobody to teach them any skills. I learned a lot of woodworking skills being in the boys club. I learned how to play basketball. I learned how to swim. I learned how to camp. I learned how to play pool, bumper pool. Learned all kinds of stuff at a facility. And guess who else is a big member of the Boys and Girls Club now? It's a Boys and Girls Club because the funding
Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington. There's a lot of these people that started from these organizations that got started, and a lot of them are nonprofit or whatever, but the Boys and Girls Club was kind of funded by the city. So, look at Houston. Like I said, where is the Boys and Girls Club for these teenagers to think? And it also employs older teenagers to teach the younger teenagers. And then how does that help the community? It helps the single mom who might be out there working not to worry about her child, because usually the boys club, girls club doesn't close until 8:00 at night.
Right.
You know
Yeah, and I was a product as well of the Boys and Girls Club, if you will. I learned how to do gymnastics there. Believe it or not, I can do a mean cartwheel and, front somersault, and I can do all of that, even still at 50 years old, but that's a whole nother story. Right.
Didn't they kick you out for wearing all them hoop earrings?
Nah. But the point that to back up your point, there were programs and stuff to help children to have something to do, because like you said, a lot of times, depending on where you are, anywhere really, you see children walking around, it's like, y'all, where y'all going? Where y'all coming from? Are y'all going to do something productive, or are you just hanging out, right? Are your parents even know where you are?
Right. And then when you're hanging out, who's recruiting you? The local gangs.
Right. Yeah, so but back to the politicians, and why I bring them up is because instead of being, reactive as far as bringing in law enforcement and all that, Crime Stoppers and stuff, that's important too, don't get me wrong, but why not bring in stuff that'll prevent all of that, right? I remember, and I think you're frozen too, Donovan, so I guess you'll come back. Okay, no, there you go. What was I going to say? I remember when I was coming up,
Crime Stoppers.
Yeah, it was crime, but I'm saying we had jobs. Like there were summer jobs at the city and stuff they had for, teenagers. You could go like real summer jobs, not selling candy, which I used to do that too, but where you could go earn a paycheck. And then when school came around, you could buy your own school clothes. You had a little money in the bank type of thing. Yeah. Where are those? The summer job program, I think that's what it's called. So where are those things, right?
Summer hire.
Right. So what we also need to realize in regards to these politicians, a lot of them are on the payroll. So what I mean by they're on the payroll, we know that there's this thing called school to prison pipeline. And so if we give these children something to do that's actually going to deter them from doing crime and stuff, well, how on earth I'm not saying a lot of these politicians do, but some of them do. How do they make a side hustle by sending these children to prison? Because that's how they fuel the prison pipeline is, get them in as young as they can. We know especially if the prison is a private prison, that they have to guarantee a 90% occupancy rate. How do you do that? To your investors, right? Because their investors looking at a return on their investment. You got to make sure that there are bodies in those beds in the prison. And so why not get them young? And the other hustle is get them young, Maybe start them off on some, minor. Maybe they'll give you 6 months to a year. While they in there, we'll get them in trouble, trump some charges up on them, and pretty soon they in there doing 30, 40 years when they should have been out years ago, right? So it's so we know why. A lot of times the politicians don't fix the problem because there's profit in it, but then that's going to take us to the people. So what do you have to say about these politicians?
Well, you know what I say about the politician. F them. I mean, it's funny. I get in a lot of arguments with like baby boomer set people, which is basically our parents and stuff. And it's funny how they don't want to take any accountability to where we are at today, because who's cutting arts out of the school programs? Who's cutting this? Everything comes down to the dollar. Whatever happened to the common good? And I'm not saying all baby boomers, because we're not doing all that. But some things you've got to keep for the common good. Boys and Girls Club, defund that. But you're going to increase the police. The police are choking people out. You're going to give them more money. I mean, unfortunately, my baby boomer class, you guys are still overwhelmingly in power. And you guys are the ones making these decisions. Like you said, to me, it's almost like they know what they're doing. They know you have to create a criminal, because if you look at their portfolio and where they get a lot of their funding, Hillary Clinton was a big industrial private prison recipient. I mean, they all are doing it. So, that's, kind of where we're at, because a good example is like Maxine Waters and that homeless issue that happened recently with her. She was totally out of touch. You don't go to a bunch of homeless people dressed to the nines and then tell them to go home. You would think she would have had the wherewithal, or her people would have said, no, you need to get in some jeans, a nice little flannel shirt, and go down there and dress appropriately. She went down there in her, $250,000 Escalade. It was crazy. It was just a crazy thing. But they, like you said, there's a correlation to all of this, because they don't care. Right now, they really don't care. It's about funding their families and their thing. But, I have one thing I got to say about that. You can do all the little boule Negroes. There's more of us in the field than there are of you guys in the house. Once they round us all up, it won't be but a matter of time before they come for you.
Or for they in the field their own self. But yeah, right. I mean, and to your point about Maxine Waters, going out there to tell the homeless people, because they were the homeless people, the unhoused, if you will.
Unhoused.
They were told that they were going to get some Section 8 vouchers for permanent subsidized housing, and that was a lie. But, Auntie Maxine went out there to say, oh, y'all go home. Y'all, and they was like, where we going to go? We ain't got nowhere to go, Mm-hmm. But to your point, it was very tone deaf, and she showed up in probably what was a $500 suit, probably $200 shoes, and a good wig on, and she was telling them, and smirking and laughing like, oh yeah, I did tell them to go home, but it's like, but those are the politicians that we have in office and that we keep putting in office, and it's like, but and not just to single out Maxine, but there's a lot of them. But you didn't have a problem amening and co-signing on the stadium there, was it SoFi Stadium?
SoFi Stadium.
You have a problem with that, where it caused a lot of gentrification and a lot of more homelessness going on.
Mostly people that look like her. That's the crazy thing. Most of the homeless that were affected by that stadium were people that had black skin just like her.
Yeah, so she didn't have a problem with that, but yeah, you gotta go home. You gotta go and figure out how you gonna get these people vouchers and stuff. And so,
nobody works harder in Washington than I do. So I don't want to hear, I work harder than anybody. Like you said in your video, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, and so to tie it into, the politicians and stuff. So when you have homelessness going on, people who are unhoused, what do you think they're eventually going to do to survive? You walking down the street, with your boo thing, and y'all got all these clothes on to the nine. You got your Gucci and your Louis bag and your red bottoms, and they see you as a mark. Now, I'm not condoning crime, but hell, if I ain't ate 2 or 3 days, and I think you got at least a snack in your purse, I might entertain it. So the thing is, these politicians, y'all need to do y'all part in fixing the dilapidation in our communities inside and out so that we can reduce crime. Now, I don't know, again, what the situation was with the guy that robbed the lady, but I'm sure if we delve into his situation, one of these two things that we talked about is probably going to have some direct effect on maybe the decision he made, right? And so you have these politicians who will get to the podium. Oh, it's a travesty that she was robbed. Oh, we need to do something. We're going to have Crime Stoppers on it. But you never did say, okay, scratch all of that. His mama might have been at 2 and 3 jobs. Maybe she was a single mom. I don't know. Or maybe his dad was involved. And mom and daddy got to work 2 and 3, 4 jobs just to keep food on the table. So he was unsupervised. But instead of us allowing, Amazons and, these small minimum wage jobs and stuff coming in these neighborhoods, let's put some real opportunities back in these neighborhoods so the mom and dad could work an 8-hour job, come home and raise their children as we were when we were coming out, right? I don't ever remember my mama, when my mom didn't work when I was, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but I don't remember my father, even my dad who owned his own shop, he wasn't gone all day and night. I mean, he came home at a decent hour in the evening, when the sun went down, he closed up.
Mm-hmm. Opened the refrigerator, got his good piece of chicken and the plate that was in there,
Right. But I don't remember, not having a parent home because they were working all the time, because back then jobs justified the economy. Like, okay, one parent can go to work and the other stay home and raise the kids. But so the point that I'm making is if they would pour that stuff back into the communities, as they keep saying, we're going to bring jobs and better affordable housing. Yeah, right. If y'all really started doing that, then you will see the crime, I think, reduce.
Well, see, here's the problem. At 83 years old, when is Maxine going to stop running for office? At 83 years old, when is she going to stop? When is she going to let somebody else that has better ideas and can lead us into the 21st century? Go ahead.
Now, even in death, she doesn't have to stop, because I don't know if you saw the funeral of the rapper and they had him standing up. And he was at the club and everybody was, he was dead. So now she's like, I don't have to ever start running. Just stand me up at a podium with my finger up.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. With the pearls and stuff.
Right. I'm claiming my time.
See, but here's the thing. If you want to solve homelessness now, isn't it funny how they can write a check and say, we'll give millions to Ukraine. We'll do all this. We've got indiscretionary funding. Right now, California's budget is in the black. They're saying that we're not even in the red. So you have all of this money, right? The Inland Empire, where we're from, has all this land out here, right? Even Calabasas and some of those areas over there. What is stopping these people from contracting with Lowe's and Home Depot to buy those little homes, those little tool sheds, and setting that up on a parcel of land that the city or the state owns, and just setting it up to help these people get on their feet or to have an area to do it? Now, I'm not even a politician. How much money is that going to cost? I don't know, but they have the discretionary funds to do it. They have the discretionary funds to do it. They can eminent domain some land if they needed to do that and take a whole bunch of these old military bases. Use that land. Remember old El Toro? No, that has to go for high-end homes. Why? We say, hey, we got a homeless problem. We could put them out here. And it isn't a prison camp. It's for those that need shelter. This is what the city provides. And that comes out of discretionary funding. What person who's paying taxes and working would be against that? I would rather see them have an opportunity to have a place to go rather than be parked out on the sidewalks with nothing happening. But why aren't these older politicians not thinking outside the box like that?
Well, I mean, so it does really all sound so simple, right? But the other thing is, if you solve the problems, then what do we need them for? Mm-hmm. Where is their carrot of hope? Oh, just keep holding on. We're going to try to solve homelessness and we're going to do all these programs. But guess what? You have to vote me back in. Exactly. Vote back in. They forget about your black ass until election comes around. I know the homelessness is out of control. We almost had it under control. But you know what? Don't put that person in office. Keep me in office because I know what to do. I'm going to make sure we cut homelessness down by 30%. And so it's that carrot of hope to keep the voters on the hook. Like, okay, they gonna do something about it. And so that's why if they solve the problem, what do you really need? It's like, think about this, people. I got a headache, right? And I go to the doctor and I say, Doc, I got a headache. Well, did you hit your head? No, I didn't hit my head. Are you stressed? I might be. Well, just go home and just meditate. Just meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And go away. Go back. Doctor, I got a headache. Tell him same thing. And instead of him giving me the remedy of maybe an aspirin, he gives me all this stuff that might help me. And instead of just saying, here, take the aspirin and go home. Call me in the morning, right? So
I need you to come in and keep paying that co-payment.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with politicians. Like if the doctor gives you the game, or if he says, listen, eat right, which they kind of do, but they know most people ain't going to follow advice. So if they really give you the game, guess what they don't have? They don't have any more patience. And guess what? They go broke. The same thing with politicians. If they give you the remedy, they solve the problems. I don't need Maxine anymore. I mean, I don't care who comes in the office, right? You can solve my problems. Kermit the Frog can come run. As long as my problems are taken care of, I don't care who's in there, right? That's why. That's why they don't do it. So if we're going to move to the people's, it's the people's fault too. Now I say it's the people's fault because the people vote over and over and over and over and over and over again. In a lot of our neighborhoods, that's just your fault that you're doing that. It's your fault, but there are things that they can do to make your you know how we are. Sign these petitions. I said, ma'am,
1960, sign the petition. The 70s, that'll work. It ain't gonna work.
Ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, what is a petition going to do?
Nothing.
She says, well, we're gonna get it to the people, the whoever's want to manage the plant. And, let them know that we're not on board with it. I said, do you really need a petition to let them? I said, you don't think they already know that? I said, you know what they're doing? I said, they're just playing games with you, buying time, making y'all think, well, if you sign this petition and bring enough signatures to us, then we'll think about it. I said, they've already made up their mind. I said, they're sitting on the bulldozers as we speak, waiting for the city council to play games with y'all too. Well, we tried, but there's no other place for doing it. And I said... Go ahead.
The only way that getting signatures is basically useless. The only way that you're going to get movement is you get your city council to vote on the referendum or whatever that issue is. And once the city council votes on it, that's law. That's it. It's done.
Nah, it ain't my job. And I said, she was like, I didn't know that. I said,
and if that ain't your job, then get up off the seat.